Good day, everyone. I am here to present to you our study entitled Readiness of Selected Grade 8 Students on Modular Distance Learning Modality, a Basis for Action Plan. The researchers, Nerissa R. Betonio, Melanie R. Poblete, and Karen Joyce S. Perea. The rationale of this study. COVID-19 hit home on January 30, 2020 when WHO declared it a public health emergency of international concern, while the Department of Health announced the first patient who tested positive for it here in the Philippines. Immediately, on February 1, 2020, the Department of Education Secretary issued DepEd Memorandum Number 11, Series of 2020, creating a task force for the management of the department response to COVID-19. Hence, the introduction of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan in the time of COVID-19. This is the department's response to the challenges posed by COVID-19 in the field of basic education. Now, one of the key elements of this BELCP is allowing of multiple learning delivery modalities such as distance learning and blended learning. In order to help the parents and the students, self-learning modules were provided either in print or in an offline or online digital formats. How learners will adapt to the new normal setting is now a big challenge, hence this study. For key literature, Martin et al. In 2015 examined whether adaptability plays a role in promoting perceived control among students and whether this in turn reduces the experience of constructs that are known to be detrimental to students' academic and non-academic development. The results show that when students were more adaptable, they are also tended to perceive that they had a greater control over their academic outcomes. Another study, according to French in 2015, as cited by Jean in 2016, the limitations of learners at different levels must be observed, specifically in modular courses because they tend to be intensely concentrated, particularly in terms of time and content, rarely have enough time allocated to ensure adequate practice and feedback. The author frequently encounters of modular courses who complain about the number of students who have not securely learned skills from previous modules, which are essential prerequisites for success on the current module. Research methodology, it consists of sampling, data collection, ethical issues, and data analysis. For sampling, 178 graded students were identified using the proportionate stratified sampling. The identified graded students were permitted the researcher to include them in the study. Now, upon their acceptance together with their parents, they answered the survey questionnaire. The responses were collected, tabulated, analyzed, and interpreted. For ethical issues, data gathered was kept confidential. For the data analysis, frequency, percentage, mean, standard deviation, and mode were computed. For the findings, Table 1 shows the extent of the readiness of graded students in terms of cognitive behavior. It was noted that in terms of seeking out new information, helpful advice, or useful resources to effectively deal with new normal setting and changing the way to do things, if necessary, to assist in a new situation that arises during teaching learning process, have the highest mean average of 3.19. This implies that despite the challenges faced by the students in this new normal, often they were able to cope with it. It also connotes that cognitive behavior of graded student is quite impressive, which helped them to adapt in the new platform, in the new educative process. Table 2 shows the extent of emotional adaptive behavior of grade 8 students in terms of enabling them to draw out positive feelings and emotions like enjoyment, satisfaction, and the like to help them through with the new situations, it obtained the highest mean of 3.18, which was interpreted as often. It connotes that there is a high emotional adaptive behavior of the students that they possess. This is the primary reason why students can cope with the challenges faced in this new normal platform of education in our country. The graph further shows the result of the responses of graded students. As seen in the graph, the responses of the students lies between often and always response. This only connotes that the students have the cognitive adaptive behavior that allows them to think and respond if the need arises to effectively deal with the new normal setting. Now, what are the adaptive behavior to facilitate learning in modular distance learning modality? So these are some of the most common response of grade 8 students when they were asked on the adaptive characteristic that they possess in order to deal with the challenges brought about by the COVID-19. So we have here the significant adaptive behavior, pakikinig or listening, matiyaga or patience, responsable or responsible, and positibo or positive attitude. So what is the implication of this study? So based from the result, cognitive and emotional readiness is as important as finding and identifying the most effective way on how to absorb what is being taught. With this, issues and challenges faced by the different individuals, readiness will play a major role in order to cope up amidst COVID-19 pandemic. For the conclusion, each students have an inherent adaptive behavior which is manifested during the times when it is needed the most like pandemic. Students admitted that they found it difficult to study and absorb what is being relayed by the teachers, but because of the adaptive behavior that they've enumerated, such as patience, listening, positive attitude, and being responsible, they were able to enjoy what is being offered in our educative process. The results of the study further revealed that graded students can cope up with the challenges brought about by the pandemic. With a mean of 3.30 and 3.20 interpreted as often in the cognitive readiness and emotional readiness of graded students respectively, it is evident that their cognitive behavior is further enough to deal with the current situation. Recommendations. The researcher recommends that there should be another study which will include not only graded students in order to further define the needs of the learners, thereby provision of appropriate intervention will also be made. It is also suggested that there would be a separate study on cognitive behavior and emotional behavior to attest the readiness of the learners. And correlation and the academic performance of the learners in terms of the cognitive and emotional readiness will also be given emphasis. And lastly, the need to have a more solid and stable blended learning system is recommended. The references. Again, readiness of selected graded students on modular distance learning modality, a basis for action plan. Thank you for listening.